Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. It is so good to have a return appearance of Dr. Paula Cordeiro. She is the Dammeyer Professor of Global Leadership and Education at the USD Kroc School of Peace Studies. How you doing there, Paula?
I'm excited to be back. Thanks.
Yes, and joined by my wonderful co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc., and will be celebrating her 20th anniversary in 2024. How you doing there, Kristen?
I'm doing well.
I know you are. And I know you're going to handle the next guest all on your own. Drew's going to take a coffee break.
Okay, we'll see. That sounds great.
So, Paula, we were talking about this before. I know we got a lot to chat about in this interview, but I hope your ears were burning. We did our third Soup Tank, Classroom of the Future Foundation's Soup Tank, take up on Shark Tank, that superintendents around the county, we had 9 of them, which is a pretty big number, gave a 5-minute pitch. Kristen was in the audience on things they'd love to have funded in their districts. And it could be funded by volunteers or whatever the case may be. And we held it at the house you built, Mother Rosalie Hill Hall in Warren Auditorium. And people were just buzzing about, do you know Paula Cordeiro? I said, no, Paula pretty well. Were you across the street at the Peace and Justice?
Yeah, I teach a couple of nights a week. So I couldn't join you. Too bad. Next time.
Very, very good. Yes, it was great, and we got a chance to meet one of your predecessors, and that's Kimberly White-Smith, and she's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm very pleased that Kimberly is the Dean of Souls.
Yeah, she's a great job. Talk about the mission of what you do at Peace Studies.
Sure. So I work in the Masters in Social Innovation. So it's a program that's, I think we're entering our 5th year this year. So the students who come from their undergraduate degree, could be in any area, but they want to change the world, just like the students in Souls want to change the world.
Right.
But they are mostly coming with a business background.
Okay.
So, and now have they been involved in business for quite a while?
Well, they range. So
Okay.
I have I've had a few who have retired from business.
Interesting.
They're in the minority. I have others. I would say the typical student is going to be 25 to 30. They'll have 2, 3, 4 years working in a very typical company out there. And they are asking themselves, do I want to continue working in the business world? But the nonprofit sector doesn't seem to pay enough. So they're asking themselves all these questions. But they are really innovative. They have ideas. And they're not sure what to do with those ideas. So they come to us and explore.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm really interested in something I read on your sheet. So I come from the nonprofit world, right? And I'm interested in these alternative business structures, particularly, maybe you could start with B Corps, because I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and there's a reason you don't. Okay. So everything started changing at the turn of the century. We traditionally, I'm going to make a parallel to education. When I was a young teacher, people would say, explain the American I worked abroad. Explain the American educational system to them. And I would say, okay, we have public schools and we have private schools. And within the privates, there are independent schools or there are religious schools. And that was it.
Sure.
Fast forward 20, 30 years, what do we talk about in education now? We have
charter, we have homeschool, we have this, we have that, we have all the things, yes.
So we have all of these different forms, structures for education. And we did it in response to, for many needs. One was because our traditional systems were not serving the needs, in particular, of people of color, of vulnerable communities, etc. So when you look in business, originally, if somebody's going to start a business, they say to themselves, am I going to be a for-profit or a not-for-profit? And I'm hearing this continuously. But starting in the 2007, 2008, 2009, new business structures, alternative structures were formed. One is called a benefit corporation, now in 40 states. So it's a legal form. And the difference with a C corporation or an LLC and a benefit corporation is the focus on the share is not on the shareholder, it's on the stakeholders. So there is a benefit, a community benefit. It's not the primacy of the shareholders.
Okay.
So now, very easily, a company can form and put it into their bylaws, or if you are a regular company, a C Corp, a C corporation, you can transfer by changing your bylaws. Very simple to do. So we have thousands in the United States, again, 40 states. Eventually, there'll be even more. They're all over the world in other countries as well.
Okay.
So that was the beginning. And then all these other things are happening in business, right? Then all of a sudden, something called, that was the benefit corporation. Then the B Corp movement started. Patagonia played a major role in this.
Okay.
How can we not only look at profit, but also look at people, also look at the planet, and measure ourselves? Because you can say that you're going to do that, and in your heart of hearts, you want to be a good business person and improve your community, and maybe you're doing a variety of things. But how do you know over time that you're getting better, that your impact is even stronger? So this entire ecosystem around the world has been created, and it's called certified B Corp. San Diego has about 40 of them. The university, my school, is working with them in particular. There's also the B Lab, which is part of the ecosystem. B Lab North America is Canada, the U.S. They support in all the cities that have that have certified benefit corporations. They support them.
So we're chatting with Paula Cordeiro. She's the Dammeyer Professor of Global Leadership Education for USD Kroc School of Peace and Studies. I'm Drew Schlosberg. Listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community show. We've been doing this for 17 years in the beautiful Mission Fed studios where we're broadcasting. Mission Fed doing great things for 60 years. Joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel, the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. No pun intended, but what's the benefit of benefit corporations?
Yeah, well, people want to have meaning in their work. We all want meaning. Some people, that's what drives them. Yes, they definitely have to make a profit. They know that. They have to be financially successful. But for some people, there is enough. And that concept of enoughness. And when I meet, and I have met people in the B Corp movement all over the world, these people are like-minded. I was just downtown at Classy. Classy is a local company that's B Corp. So they meet in the 5 areas that they currently are assessed in, from governance to workers to the environment, this community, there's 5 areas. They are measured every 3 years on those areas, and they can look at their improvement of their social impact. How are they impacting the communities they serve? That's what drives these owners. So whether it's Classy or Think Parallax that works marketing in the United States and they're here, or whether it's Lotus Bags up in Carlsbad that wants to get plastic out of our supermarkets.
Yeah.
So these folks are driven by the idea of making an impact, and then their business model follows it. And of course, they have to make money.
I was just going to say, it's great to be altruistic and all that business, but if you're not making money, you can't be altruistic in some ways, or as further as you can go on this. Talk about this is something that is growing substantially in the business community, I take it.
Absolutely.
Right. And pretty soon, well, I shouldn't say pretty soon, whenever the day will become is that if you're not a B Corp or something to that effect, then why aren't you one, correct?
I You said it, Drew. We're in the middle of a sea change.
Right.
And Kristen, when you went to school, you had a choice when you started the organization, nonprofit or for-profit, traditional. You didn't have the other options that these alternative business structures that are emerging and re-emerging at the moment.
Talk a little bit before we go to break. Talk a little bit about nonprofits that have social enterprises.
Yeah. So all along, I mean, we all know museums. Museums have a museum store. They might have a restaurant. So there's a certain percentage of their revenue that comes from those social enterprises. So social enterprises could be for-profit or not-for-profit, right? That's the big umbrella that I'm talking about. And then we have some that, let's talk about Homeboy Industries in L.A., Father Boyle. What has he done in the last 30 years? These are people who are in gangs or in prison, and they needed jobs. So he created what's the oldest form of a social enterprise, which is a worker-integrated social enterprise. So he has Homegirl Cafe, Homeboy Cafe. I think they're up to 10 different social enterprises.
Wow.
Some of them are more successful than others.
Sure.
If you look carefully, my students do them as a case study. Some have died a slow or fast death along the way. But at least 30% of Homeboy's revenue every year comes from those programs.
Interesting.
And then in San Diego, you have others. So you have a spin-off of Homeboy Industries. You have Rising Industries. I think they're located in the Jacobs Center in southeastern San Diego. So they're a spin-off. You have Kitchens for Good. They opened a store where they are repurposing.
Yes. Yeah, I know them
things.
well.
Yeah. So those are the newer forms of social enterprises.
Right. You come back from break. I want to talk more about that aspect, definitely about how foundations can get involved in this. Something that is near and dear to your heart is entrepreneurism, and how you can tie into the space that's very near and dear to our hearts, and that's K-12, and get them engaged in this. When we return with Paula Cordeiro, she is the Dammeyer Professor of Global Leadership and Education with the USD Kroc School of Peace Studies. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. Been doing this for 17 years, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. They've been doing wonderful things in our region for more than 60 years. Joined by my phenomenal co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is as our listeners know, I have to use a different verb every single, and an adjective.
It's an adjective.
An adjective, too. That's right. And I'm running out of adjectives to call her.
I'll get your list.
Yeah, you should. She's the executive director of San Diego Writers Inc. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 17th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. They've done a great job. You know, Paula, you've worked with Mission Fed for a long time as the role of Dean of the School of Leadership and Ed Sciences now at the Kroc Center. Mission Fed is everywhere. They're working with Father Joe's Villages. They work with food banks. They work all over the place. Really got to give them kudos for what they do.
Mission Fed is one of our wonderful, wonderful credit unions in this community, and has been. Matter of fact, my original conversation when I was a dean, way back at the turn of the century, if I sound like my grandmother, was with the then head of Mission Fed, because Mission Fed...
Is that Ron Martin?
Yeah, Ron Martin. Mission Fed is a co-op.
Yes.
And that means employee ownership. And although co-ops have been around for a long time, they are reemerging. I'm actually hoping and seeing little bits of this in California, where low-income housing cooperatives. Like in New York City, they tend to be for wealthy people, right? But we're talking about low income, and you're starting to see, I see it I just came back from the Bay Area, you see it there, but we're going to start seeing more. It's another option to address issues of homelessness in San Diego.
And we just had one on the show in the Southeast on a market co-op was what came on. And so it was fascinating on this. So, Kristen, I know before we get into the foundations and entrepreneurship, you had another question for Paula.
I mean, you were just addressing it. I was like, what is the difference between a B Corp and, say, an EO company, so an employee-owned company?
Yeah.
But you kind of went into that. So are there other examples of good EOs that are operating in the community?
So the EO, there's lots of examples. Actually, Patagonia has moved into a new form, a perpetual trust, but which is, you're going to hear a lot about that in the next 10 years. But in San Diego, we have many ESOPs, right? Employee stock ownership programs. So, and they tend to be a lot of accountancy firms, aeronautics, even some of the landscaping. This is when an employee becomes a shareholder in the company. They're owning stock basically in the company. On average, and they're certified, many of these companies, by the EO organization that a friend of mine runs up in the Bay Area. But on average, a person who retires from an EO company has $90,000 more in their retirement portfolio than somebody who didn't work in an ESOP-owned company.
Wow.
You know, so we were talking before we got on the air here about the foundations and what they can play in this space, and especially as it turns into entrepreneurship, how they can tie into this, education ecosystem. I mean, we can spend 4 hours talking about that, but in a nutshell, how does that all tie together?
Sure. So I've sat on a few foundation boards, Irvine Foundation. I'm on Prebis now. I work with smaller foundations in San Diego. Plus, I have my own donor-advised fund at a community foundation. So what are the roles of foundations? Traditionally, they've been, they partner, they provide money that's catalytic, okay? It's it's changing. They are starting to play, the more innovative ones, are starting to play the role of ecosystems builders. So if you look at San Diego, we have amazing innovation here. I see pockets of it with the superintendents.
That's right.
You see all these pockets out there. My students in their pitch contests, or all the universities have these things. So then I look at an organization like Mission Edge. They're supporting nonprofits, for-profits, but they're always worried about their funding and where are they going to get the resources because they're a nonprofit.
Sure.
So foundations can help build those ecosystems. They can bring different groups together. And the groups, we have to get away from not involving government. And I'm going to say public schools, government, right? Mm-hmm. We have to get away from nonprofits. We're going to support. We can't support for-profits because that's going to impact our tax status as because foundations are 501c3s. None of that is accurate. We can support the ecosystem that then is supporting not only the nonprofits and the for-profits, such as B Corp, not just any for-profit, but those that are looking at people, profit, and planet, but also government. There are so many people in government who for decades have been innovative and they haven't had any place to go because of all of the regulations and bureaucracy. And I have seen over the years, it's one of the reasons I am not in K-12 education like I was before, because I realized that I had these amazing principals and superintendents who wanted to do this phenomenal work. And one of their hands, or both of their hands, were too often tied behind them. So how can we unleash their innovation? Foundations can help to do that by driving that ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that's, and listen, this is a world that is just so ripe for what you're talking about here, for the B Corps, for the EAOs, and from everything in between, and of course, the entrepreneurship. And these students are absolutely thriving when they're exposed to this.
They are. And so there's different audiences. So my students only want to work for these kind of companies. I mean, I had one yesterday. She's a barista. And she said, Paula, I have a full-time job there. Don't even have I don't full-time, but she has no benefits, so however they do the job. She has to get another job. She says, I don't want to work in those kinds of companies. So the students, we're kind of taking care of them in the university, okay? Then we have a lot of people who have been in business. They graduated more than 20 years ago. How do they learn? Like Kristen, you said you didn't know what a benefit corporation was. How do you all learn about this? And that's where we're developing executive education programs at USD. There'll be 1 day, 2 days, a summit, or a global seminar to take people to look at the models. We're going to be taking people to Dr. Bronner's, to Taylor Guitar. We're taking people to visit B Corps in Spain so they can look at it. Spain does a phenomenal job with their certified B Corps. I mean, they are amazing in Europe. And so we'll learn. People need to get out of a book or a classroom or out of a podcast and see and talk and ask people, how do you do this? How are you successful? How do you partner with nonprofits? How do you partner with government?
Right. But I'm going to speak up for podcasts if I can. It's a way to get that word out globally. And, listen, there are people in Mozambique, and, you travel all around the world. I'm not afraid to even ask how many countries you've been to, and doing this great work on it. And I think this thing that we're so excited about, we've been doing this for 17 years now, is talking about these innovations here's Kristen. She runs her own business, knows how to run businesses, all that, but first time she heard of a benefit corp, in this aspect of it. And as these kids that start looking around and saying, I think we better start taking care of this, we'll just use climate change, this planet, or there won't be a planet in this, are just going to absolutely glom onto this aspect of it. Talk about your pitch stuff. It's so interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know how many years, maybe 12, 13, we have the Fowler Global Social Innovation Challenge. So we have students from universities all over the world, and they come to USD. Some of them are online now after COVID and things. And they have to be vetted at their own universities. So they go through a process, and we give them all kinds of materials that will help them. I'll give you one quick example. I was in Rwanda. I do a lot of work there, and with a particular all-girls college. And we wanted them to be a part of this, so gave them some materials. They already had a budding social entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship program. So we were supporting them and then helped them also. We were able to bring some monies to the table to support their travel, and they came, and those young women learned all kinds of things. Did they win? No. Did they have an amazing experience learning how to do a business plan for an idea?
Probably, yes.
You got it.
Yeah, well, listen, and in countries like Rwanda, I'm sure, and those others, that spreads very quickly, and the touch points of the folks you dealt with, probably multiply that by hundreds now, what is learning that and so forth. I think it's critical. We talked about this last time, so we definitely want you on again. Can you bring in a couple of the companies you're working with to chat about how they have either worked with you folks at the Peace Studies or use them as an example of how B Corps work?
On the drive here, I was thinking I should talk to Drew about bringing in some of these amazing B Corps leaders. Because I have to tell you, when you go into the companies, you walk out and you say to yourself, oh, I want to work there. I never felt that way about most companies. But these folks are like-minded. It's almost like they drank the Kool-Aid.
So here's what we're going to do, and I want to have this on a minimum of once a quarter. Minimum of we can get 3 other mics on here. It's up to you if you want. If that doesn't burn you out and stuff, bring in as many people as you want. We got to spread the word about this aspect of it. It's going to be great for the audience that we work with, Classroom of the Future Foundation, with these superintendents and so forth. And let's make this thing happen. We'll start as early as January.
Let's go for it. Have you ever had Dr. Bronner's on?
I don't think so.
Well, they are one of the best rated B Corps in the world.
Now, I'm been honored to be a master of ceremonies. I'm not sure why people keep on asking me to do this stuff because
you're good at it.
Because I think I get the short straw. Hey, Drew will do it.
I don't think that's how that works, Drew.
Well, so I'm honored to do the second year of the Stemposium up at the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum up in Escondido. Krishna Cabra just retired, venerable CEO. I think Dr. Bronner's is going to be on the podium, if I'm not mistaken.
I would imagine they are because they are very invested in the Vista Escondido community.
They are, I'm pretty sure. Paula Cordeiro, it's always a good day when you're on the show. I'm just all geeked up about the fact that you're going to be a regular minimum. I've already committed some of your time, once a quarter, to bring in some of these great B Corps. We just can't talk about it enough. Wishing you nothing but great success moving forward. Thanks so much.
Thanks to the two of you. Much appreciated.
Kristen Fogel, another great job as co-host. Really appreciate you sitting right next to me. Some great questions. Can't wait for you to take care of this interview coming up shortly.
Oh, boy.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the community show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in its 17th year. Hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.